WN.com. In a moment, I shall return with a story that will just knock your socks off on Coast to Coast AM. Now, what you are about to hear tonight is a major disclosure event as we talk about time travel. Perhaps the cover-up will end as one of America's early time space explorers will step forward to reveal what he experienced, what he learned during the early years of time travel research and development by the United States government. Andrew Basiago, a lawyer, writer, Mars researcher, and planetary whistleblower. He will bring his campaign, and he will relate his childhood experiences in DARPA's Project Pegasus. Andrew is next on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie with Andrew Basiago, our special guest tonight, as we talk about truly an incredible story called Project Pegasus. Andy, welcome to Coast, my friend. How are you?
Good, George. Thank you for having me on.
Good. Tell us about you.
Well, I'm a lawyer in private practice here in Washington State, and I'm a writer. I hold 5 academic degrees, including a BA in history from UCLA and a Master of Philosophy from the University of Cambridge. I've been busy developing a profile in the disclosure movement in the sense that I've been leading a campaign to lobby the U.S. government to disclose several controversial truths that I'm claiming the U.S. government is concealing. One is that Mars harbors life. That is to say, the red planet is an inhabited planet, and this can be demonstrated by an analysis of NASA's photographs from Mars. I wrote about that in my paper, The Discovery of Life on Mars, which I published last year in 2008, which was the first paper to prove that Mars is an inhabited planet, and in fact the first work to publish a photograph of a humanoid on another planet. Going back many more years, I was a participant in DARPA's Project Pegasus, which was essentially the U.S. time-space exploration program at the time of its emergence in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Mm-hmm. I've been studying my involvement, researching my involvement in Project Pegasus for 10 years now in a personal quest to prove what happened to me and also to communicate my experiences to others. And next year I'm going to be publishing a tell-all book in which I describe my experiences in Project Pegasus and give an overview of the true story of the emergence of time travel in the U.S. defense technical community 40 years ago.
Andy, what happened to you as a child? How did you get involved in this?
Well, I can relate the first experience that I had in Project Pegasus when I was brought into the project. My dad was a senior projects engineer for the Ralph M. Parsons Company. We were living in Morris Plains, New Jersey, in north central New Jersey. And when I was 6 years old, he drove me from our home in Morris Plains up to the old Curtiss-Wright Aeronautical Company facility in Woodridge, New Jersey. Curtiss-Wright was essentially a vast aerospace plant with many numbered buildings. And we went through the Air Museum there where the vintage Glenn Curtiss planes were on display. And we entered the engineering building and then into a building numbered Building 68. And in a room there in Building 68, there was a device that consisted of essentially of 2 parenthesis-shaped objects. They were about 8 feet tall and about 10 feet apart on the ground. And when my dad had the technician turn the device on, it propagated a curtain of energy that looked like it was sort of falling between the 2 armatures of the device, not unlike, let's say, water falling in a water sculpture at a public park. Mm-hmm. And my dad explained that he was going to hold my hand, and when he counted to 3, we were going to jump through this curtain of energy, this curtain of radiant light, and we were going to find ourselves sort of in a tunnel moving forward, and that at a certain point the tunnel would close, and we would find ourselves somewhere else on the face of planet Earth. And so we did so, and we arrived on a hillside in the state capitol complex in Santa Fe, New Mexico, several seconds later. So essentially we jumped through the curtain of energy, a vortal tunnel opened up in the fabric of the time-space continuum, not unlike the near-death experience that writers and researchers like our own Daniel Brinkley have described. And I could see on the side of the tunnel that there were sort of luminous effects of other events going on that were rushing by very quickly. And then suddenly we popped into view in Santa Fe, and the tunnel closed, and we had essentially teleported 2,000 miles across country in several seconds. So that was essentially my entry into DARPA's Project Pegasus. I quantum leaped from Woodridge, New Jersey to Santa Fe, and over the next 5 years, Santa Fe would be used as sort of the collection area for these teleportings that were going on from different similar labs around the country.
Now, when you talk about disclosure, Andy, in the push for it, you're talking about all facets of disclosure, aren't you?
Right. I'm really emphasizing two major themes, though, one on the surface of our planet and the other off-planet. With the Mars disclosure effort, this goal that I have to encourage President Obama to acknowledge the fact that Mars is an inhabited planet. What's driving that is my belief that as human beings on this planet, I believe we have a human right to a true telling of the natural history of the solar system that we inhabit. And I think that to the extent that Mars is inhabited and that we're beginning to visit Mars, part of the information that I'm going to be disclosing is that, in fact, U.S. personnel are already on Mars. And so we can predict that there will be even greater visitation, exploration, habitation, and colonization of the planet that every 2 years comes closest to our planet, which is the planet Mars. And so I think that it's critical that we disclose the truth to the American people and the people of the world that Mars is inhabited, because we're going to have to do the right thing regarding Mars. And I'm urging that we develop a UN protectorate for Mars under treaty as we begin to have further activity there.
Now, what is so fascinating, Andy, about this entire case is that you're prominent. You're an attorney. You're a researcher. You really have nothing to gain with this story. Has it affected your career at all as you go forward with this?
No, in fact, it hasn't. It's amazing. I think there's an abounding sort of desire and even an optimism on the part of the public now to move forward and embrace the critical issues that we're going to be confronting in the 21st century. And I think that people in my professional practice, my clients, fellow attorneys, have been very, in fact, encouraging of my truth campaign. And so, no, it hasn't affected it negatively in any way. In fact, I think it's had a positive impact. Of course, the other major emphasis of my campaign is more of an issue in deep politics that my fellow attorneys can relate to, which is this desire to have the U.S. government disclose the teleportation capability that Project Pegasus achieved over 40 years ago, and that's been kept secret all these years.
Explain this device, which you call a Tesla teleportation device.
Well, it was essentially a device that was found in Nikola Tesla's papers at the time of his death in January of 1943. There were two teams of investigators that were rushing to his suite at the Knickerbocker Hotel in Manhattan, two War Department agents and also two agents from the FBI. And the War Department agents got there first and seized Nikola Tesla's lab manuals, the papers of Nikola Tesla.
Yes.
Tesla's papers were never lost. My investigation over the last 10 years essentially proved that, in fact, they were forwarded to the individuals in the world who it would make the most sense to forward Tesla's shop manuals to, the physicists that were then gathering in Los Alamos, New Mexico, to build the atomic bomb. And this was a critical moment in the history of U.S. time travel research and development, because at that point, Tesla's work during the latter part of his career, during the last 15 or 20 years of his life, was weaponized. It was sequestered within the defense technical community because the war was on, and it was believed that the primary significance of the teleportation technology contained in his papers